see from back there, Randy's being a dog on someone's leg.
I didn't know it was that kind of party, I'm sorry.
You're all set here, thank you. Gene, how did you get the handcuffs off your, never mind. Randy, are you a guard dog, a guidance dog, or a therapy dog?
Bad dog.
A bad dog. Unbelievable.
I'm just a cabana boy.
Cabana boy.
All right, Gene, have your seat. Randy, Roy, could you take him outside to take a leak? Right outside the exercise room, there's a place you can
Man down, let's go.
Some things you just can't unsee. That's
Amen.
So, 2 years ago, when Sue and I moved down here to Four Lakes, we heard all the stories. Hi, handsome boy. How are you? Oh my goodness. What a doll. So we heard all the stories about Gene, and we hadn't met her for a while. So one day Dorothy drove Gene up. Honey, I'd like to say.
Hello.
First rule of entertainment, never follow a child or an animal act. And I just blew them both. So Dorothy pulls up in Catherine Edwards' driveway, which is right next door to us. And I hadn't met Jean yet, so I figured I'm gonna play with her a little bit, because I'd heard all the stories about her. So I walked around the front of the car, over to the passenger side, tapped on the glass where Jean was. She drops the window down, being a smartass, and said, "Wow, you really are a hot ticket." So Jean looks at me, up and down, and goes, "Forget about it, honey, you're way too old for me." And rolled the window back up, never looked at me. My ego, my tail between my legs, I crawled back home. So several months ago, Sue came to me and said that Dorothy had approached her. She wanted me to do something for Jean's party tonight. She wanted me to dress up as the Grim Reaper. Some of you, I apologize to the family members here not knowing this. I have been Santa Claus, I've been an Easter Bunny, I was a real ugly Frankenstein, and worse yet, I dressed up in a dress with a wig, stood next to Joel on stage, and I was the ugliest Cher that ever lived. So that being said, the Grim Reaper outfit that Sue got frightened me. 2 reasons I didn't want to do it. One, I'm 6'3", 280 pounds. I didn't want Jean to have a heart attack when I put the thing on. Number 2, if I walked through that door as the Grim Reaper, half of you would think it was coming for you. Ray Locke last night said that there'd be a line of ambulances parked out in front of the. So I was trying to figure out what to do. I sat down a couple weeks ago with Dorothy and Jean in their home, and I asked Jean about her life. I said, "What do you remember when you were little?" Well, her mom was a flapper. People remember flappers. She did not have a car. Her family didn't own a car. They had a motorcycle. She babysat for the entire block. She lived in Brooklyn and then Queens. The one thing I remember, she said, I said, "What do you remember as a little girl?" She said, "Walking to school with cold hands. No gloves." Right, so now there's tears in my eye. How am I going to get out of here? I said, what would you like everybody in this room to remember about you? And she said the golden rule. She wants to be treated like she treats other people. So in talking to her directly, I'm thinking, God, 100 years old, I couldn't even, to me that's history. I'm not a young guy, but still, 1920s. Here's what was going on in the 1920s. When Jean was born, it was the middle of Prohibition. We think of that as history. She lived it. In 1929, the stock market crashed. She was 5 years old. Here's some of the interesting things that women couldn't do in the 20s. Oh boy. Don't shoot the messenger, please. They couldn't sit on a jury. Women couldn't be in the military or get military benefits. They couldn't enlist. They could not work a night shift. They could not have their own name on a passport. And the one that killed me, and Jean has a cute little story about this that I can't tell. Women couldn't work if they were pregnant. 1920s. So I started a little more research to try to find out what we had in common. So she was 21 in 1945. I was 21 in 1978. Here's some of the differences. 1945, World War II ended. World War II, and Jean was 21 years old. Nothing was going on in 1978 when I was 21. So I started looking at other stuff. Number one movie in 1945 when Jean was 21, The Bells of St. Mary. Number one movie in 1978, Grease. Here's the more embarrassing part. Music. I love music. 1945 was the Andrews Sisters, Les Brown's Orchestra, Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, Duke Ellington, and Count Basie. You remember them. Most of you remember them. 1978. Embarrassingly, Van Halen, The Cars, Devo, Blondie, and Dire Straits. Yes, it was a much better generation.
I have to go sit down, so, okay.
I put this one in for two of my buddies here. 1945, the World Series champs were, Ray, the Detroit Tigers. 1978, the World Series champs were Bob Borelli, the New York Yankees. Could you stand up for just a second, Jim? Stand over here, look at all these wonderful people. Carl did a wonderful rendition of Over the Rainbow. Awesome. One of my favorite movies from 1939, I believe. A lot of quotes from that movie. Some people with no brains do a lot of talking. Your little dog too, all that stuff. My favorite quote from that movie is, when the wizard looked at the Tin Man, gave him a clock, he said, just remember, my sentimental friend, a heart is not measured by how much it loves, but by how much others love it. Jean, all of these people love you. This is a room full of friends.